Hello, I'm Suzanne Harrison.
And I'm Joadrica Brown Spates.
It's important to talk to your adult and adolescent female patients about intimate partner or domestic violence, and we're here today to discuss some ways that you might do that. We also recognize that men can be victims of domestic violence. There is a PDF document on the training website for more information.
First, it's important to be informed. You should know what you are mandated to report under state law. Most states require that certain injuries, like gunshot wounds or knife wounds, be reported to law enforcement. Other states also require intentional injuries to be reported to law enforcement. Healthcare professionals are required to report abuse and neglect of children, elders, and other vulnerable adults. Only a few states require medical professionals to report suspected domestic or intimate partner violence. So know your law and be sure to tell your patients what you are required to report before you ask any questions.
It's important to know that services exist in your community to help victims of domestic violence. It's a good idea to have brochures or cards from those resources available in your office. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is always a good resource.
It's very important that your patient has privacy when you talk to her about domestic violence. If a friend, family member, or partner is with the patient, don't ask about violence in their presence. The person who's with the patient could be the abuser or could know the abuser. A victim may also be embarrassed, afraid, or nervous to talk about domestic violence in front of a family member or friend. So be discreet. It's also best to have as few people in the room as possible.
The United States Preventative Services Task Force recommends that you screen all adult and adolescent female patients for domestic violence. We recommend that you make it a brief conversation with your patients. It doesn't take very long. Start by saying something that lets your patient know that you're sensitive to the issue. Let them know that they're not being singled out and that you talk to every patient about violence.
A good way to introduce the topic of domestic violence is to say, you know, I talk to all of my patients about domestic violence because it's a public health issue. Many people are victims of harm at home. Even if you're safe at home, you may know someone who is being abused. I want to tell you that no one deserves to get hit or threatened at home, and there are services in our community that can help.
Now comes the screening part, where you ask your patients a direct question. An example of a routine screening question is, does your partner ever hurt or threaten you?
Or you can say, do you feel safe in your relationship? Or are you ever afraid of your partner?
You may also ask about domestic violence when you suspect the patient's injury or condition could be due to domestic violence.
If you suspect domestic violence, you can say, I'm worried about what caused your injury. Did someone do this to you?
If a patient tells you that she is being hurt at home, you should always reassure her that it is not her fault and no one deserves to be abused. Remember, if the patient is a competent, functioning adult, you cannot force her to do anything. She has to make her own decisions in her own time. Empowering our patients to make their own choices is one of the best ways to show support.
But discreetly tell her that there is help available and be sure she understands how to find it. Make sure you document every discussion about domestic violence and at the next visit, follow up.
Your patient's life may depend on it.